Hey guys, it's kind of early, but I figured why not? I'm gonna record this anyway. So I hope that my ASMR voice is not too quiet for you guys. Hey, welcome to Patreon. I'm your patron, your creator that you patronize, Scott from Heroic Studios Gaming. Okay, I can do that for very long, but that was funny. I don't know if it was relaxing for you guys. I'll keep doing it. Just kidding. Let's. You know what I wanted to do today? Actually, I wanted to do this. We're going to be talking about the Judge Dredd films today, both of them, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts on the two of them. And we're going to put this up on Patreon here in a couple of days. That's right. I'm recording this a little in advance because of the way things are going. But anyway, so yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the Judge Dredd movies because that's what we're making here. But to do that, I wanted to do the opening to the 1995 Judge Dredd film starring Sylvester Stallone and Rob Schneider and a couple other people. I don't remember everyone that's in it. What's his guy? The guy who plays, John Hurt. No, he's not in it. What the hell's the name of the guy? I'm gonna look it up real fast. Oh, Max. It was Max von Sydow or something. He was from a guy in the 70s who did a guy in the 70s and 80s who did a lot of films as a kind of a dude. Anyway, so let's do the opening. My favorite opening to a movie, so one of my favorite openings to a movie. So this is the opening to the 1995 Judge Dredd movie.
In the third millennium, the world changed. Climate, nations, all were in upheaval. The earth transformed into a poisonous, scorched desert, known as the Cursed Earth. Millions of people crowded into a few megacities, where roving bands of street savages created violence the justice system could not control. Law as we know it collapsed. From the decay rose a new order, a society ruled by a new elite force, a force with the power to dispense both justice and punishment. They were the police, jury, and executioner all in one. They were the judges.
So yeah, that's the opening to the 1995 film Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone. That opening is so cool because it, in a nutshell, just sort of explains. First off, James Earl Jones doing the narration, super cool. That's great. Secondly, it was well written. It was well written. Thirdly, it basically tells you everything you need to know about the world of the Judge Dredd series, just kind of right in one block. You don't need to go look it up. You got it. Okay, it's Cursed Earth. Things fell apart, and they made some judge, jury, and executioner group called the Judges. Right. That's it. So all the rest of it sort of comes together. I was like, dude, that's solid. That was solid. And I remember seeing that I was a kid. This is actually about the time I had the Rogue Trooper comics, I think, at this time or around this time. And I did not know this was made by the same people who made this movie. But I really like this movie. People trash on it all the time. They're like, oh, it's so dumb. And it is dumb. It is very dumb, but it's it's dumb in a cheesy, wonderful way that's just fun to watch. It's an action movie where you don't take it seriously. It's like Demolition Man. It's such a great movie. It's you're not sitting around you're not on the edge of your seat crying for certain characters. You just you're just watching it. You just have a good old time, and you walk away from it going well, that was a good old time. And that was it, right? That's it. This is the whole point of the movie. It wasn't supposed to give you it wasn't supposed to have a deep message about society and whether or not we should go or should not go to a fascist society, or whether or not certain groups of people are eventually going to become these fascists, or nothing like that. There was no deeper story to it. It was literally just, let's watch some guy called a judge go through a bunch of stuff that happens to him and get out of it okay because he's the hero. So that's what's going to happen. This is a good film. It's a good film. But only in that way. If you try to take it seriously, if you at any point you want it to be serious or give you emotions, you are watching the wrong movie. That is not the movie to watch. You should go watch something else. And so Judge Dredd is Judge Dredd 1995. Right, I have to clarify because there are two. Judge Dredd 1995 with Sylvester Stallone is just a fun movie to watch. And even the conflict in the middle and near the end, they're not big. Like, I don't, it's not like, I don't, like, it was like, okay, this is cool, but like, this is like, okay, we're heading toward a boss fight. This is rising action toward a boss fight. We know this is going to happen. And they've already like shown their card on what the like thing is going to be. So you already know, like, you already know what the trump card is, like that the bad guy knows that the hero doesn't, right? And so like you're not surprised when he reveals it. He's like, you're like, as the watcher, the person watching the movie, you're just kind of like, yeah, bro, they've been telling us now for like 45 minutes. Like, we already know what's going on. So yeah, but it's a fun film. It was produced in 1995. It came out in 1995, and it follows this judge. It follows Judge Dredd as he's like dealing with the situation that occurs. So initially, we actually follow Rob Schneider for the beginning of the film. And I mean, anytime you have Rob Schneider in a film, you automatically take it from serious to not so serious, right? So like, that's what I'm talking about. So like, they have Rob Schneider, and like, we start off with Rob Schneider, and he's getting out of prison for something. Not entirely sure what it is, but eventually we discover that he was a hacker and he hacked some stuff, and so he was in prison, which is that's actually a separation. There are prisons in the Judge Dredd universe, but it's a little different in the way that they do prisons in the Judge Dredd comic books versus the way they did them in this movie. So in this movie, the prison is literally just like a normal sort of high security prison in a futuristic world. Whereas in the Judge Dredd world, like, there's a lot of these ISO cube style prisons where you essentially get put into a cube and you're isolated from society, and you don't have any interactions with anyone else. There's no one comes to visit you, nothing. You just get fed through a tube, and that's the end of it. You eat what you need to eat, you sleep, you wake, you do whatever you have to do, and then you make it out of your however many months or years of ISO cube time that you're been allotted by the judge, and then you go about your business. And so, like, that's how it's done in the comic books. In the movie, there's like a federal penitentiary, and they have to go there, and they get like trying, and there is some of that in the comic books too. Like Luna 1 has like a base on it, or penitentiary on it, and then there's like a high security penitentiary out in, like, by Pluto or something. And so like there are some prisons that they go to, but this is like an Aspen penal colony is like a thing in the comic books. But like, this is like, there's no other type of prison, so like you have they when Rob Schneider gets arrested a little bit later on, they immediately sent him back to Aspen Federal Penitentiary out in the middle of nowhere, right? So that there's no ISO cubes or anything, which is a bit weird. So the movie has like, it's like a takeaway from the comic series and sort of leaves the fascism sort of at the door. And so you just basically have this cool story about a judge who's street cop who's fighting crime, and these people are legitimately evil. So like, it's like, there's no, like I said, there's no moral conflict. You're just watching a movie in which, like, Sylvester Stallone's riding around on a bike with a helmet going like, I am the law. Throw down your weapons, right? Like, that was the worst Stallone impersonation I've ever done, but that's what he says. He says, I am the law. Throw down your weapons, right? It's like a thing. Now, so that's how that was, and that's what a thing that like when I was a kid, that's what I encountered. Like, and so I was like, oh, this movie, man, this is amazing. And then in the next one, the second film, I'm just looking at my notes real fast, 2012. The second film came out in 2012, and it had Carl Urban. Sorry. I keep saying, I've called him Kurt Urban like a dozen times. I don't know why I call him that. His name is Carl Urban. But it stars Carl Urban, who plays Judge Dredd. He plays the titular character Dredd in the movie. It's called Dredd. That's to separate it from Judge Dredd, which, was the 95 Stallone film. So Dredd stars Carl Urban playing Judge Dredd, and also has another character. I don't remember her name. She's cute though. She did a great job. She plays Judge Judge Anderson. Judge Anderson. I don't know, I was going to say Judge Hershey. That's not the same judge. Judge Anderson, who's the psychic judge. She's prominently featured in whenever there's psi judges in the comic series, and she's prominently featured in the series, the Judges of Death, like the judges that are like, that are there, the alien judges that are taking over people's minds and killing them and stuff. She's prominently featured in that because she's a psychic. So they brought her character into the Judge Dredd universe in the movies with this film. I mean, she already existed in the comic book series, but they pulled her into the movie franchise, the movie and TV franchise, because they were supposed to make this into a TV show afterwards. They got the green light to do it, and then they never actually did. But anyway, they bring in the psychic character, and so we see a different side of Dredd. We see a gritty side of Dredd. We see a dark side of Dredd. We see an angry side of Dredd, who's just so angry at the world. because of just how terrible the crime is. And in this case, this movie starts off with another sort of crime sequence that's happening right in the beginning. But instead of it being like, I am the law, like it's like Judge Dredd chasing some dudes, some drugged out dudes in a car chase on a terrible, shitty street in the middle of Atlanta, apparently. I guess they filmed it like in Atlanta or something, and like it, like they didn't change anything. It was like, let's make a really terrible looking city. so that's like they didn't really change any of the like the stuff. They threw some more cardboard down, and that's about it. But so they're in this like he's like in this car chase with these drug dudes, and he like basically kills them, right, to arrest them. Because they're doing drugs, and that's it. And then he's given Anderson as like a rookie cop, and he's got to like take care of her. And they get called out to Peachtree's because someone got thrown off of like the 232nd floor or something down to the very lobby floor down below. And so they've got to go look into that. And when they do that, they discover that this Peachtree's block is actually where this particular drug that he was chasing in the very beginning actually comes from. And so he ends up in they end up in basically a gang war. Well, it's not a gang war. They basically, there are multiple gangs in the city block because the city block is like 50,000 people. So you're going to have multiple gangs. But they end up in, it's very much like the, what is it called? The Tower or, the Siege or the Raid or something like that. There's like a series of films that it's like an Indonesian film that got made into an American action film. But basically they've got to get to the top of the tower and fight their way the whole way to get a particular person and arrest them. Right. Like that's the whole deal, because they're basically trying to find like the, person who's creating this drug out on the street and take them down. And they only discover this because the person they end up arresting knows this, and the psychic reads his mind, and she's like, "Oh my god, this is like way bigger than we thought." And then so while they're doing this, sorry, I needed my lemonade. The gang boss, she takes over the tower and sort of shuts it all down, and then it's like she owns it. And so they're basically trying to survive, and it's a fight for survival, and backup doesn't help them, right? Like this is the kind of movie that we're talking about. So it's an amazing film. This is an amazing film. So while I said the other one was good, Dredd 2012 is an amazing film. There's all kinds of great things about it. There's like, it's deep and dark and gritty. It does make you think a few times, and there is a discussion about like how society works. Like there's a thing where they're trying to get, like, there's one person in the tower helping them, and he's like, they're optimistic that other people will help, and he's like, are you kidding me? Like, most people would rather just shut their doors and like ignore all of the stuff that's going on. In fact, the only reason why these gangs have been able to operate here is because most of the people just close their doors and don't want to do anything about the crime that's around them. The stuff that injures their life, they don't actually try to stop and do anything about it, right? So they have this like commentary about like people who, like, how we as a society tend to just like look the other way when we have like homeless people or gangs in our neighborhood and stuff like that. We just try to like keep our heads down and keep our noses clean and stay out of trouble. And so there's like that sort of commentary. So there's like a thought commentary in the movie, and then you just have like a bunch of cool action sequences that are like super badass. And so it's like super, like, if I give 2 thumbs up to like the Judge Dredd film from 95, I have to give it like 5 thumbs up, and I wish I had like a little thing to like to give it like 5 thumbs up, because it is an amazing film. And this case also, this one actually sort of investigates more of the sort of fascist rule law thing that goes on, because there's a point where there's like a person and they need to be judged for a crime, and he asks the rookie to tell him what she would do about this particular situation, like assess the crime, and she sort of like talks about like extenuating circumstances, and like they get into this discussion about letting people off for lower crimes if it keeps them from becoming bigger criminals later, because they, like whatever. And they also see the consequences of their actions, because there's at one point where, like, after he's killed like 30 gangsters or something, they end up in a house where someone sort of helps hide them, this lady, and they quickly realize that he judged her boyfriend, and the boyfriend is now dead on the floor in the hallway, and now they're like getting help from this person whose boyfriend that he judged, and they're expecting him to come back, but he's not going to come back because he's been judged. So there's sort of like this kind of thing that goes on in the movie, and so there's like, it's a really great film for multiple reasons, because it does make you think about that kind of stuff, and it also makes you think about, like, it also makes you, like, experience this dirty, scary situation. In fact, in this movie, like in the other movie, I wasn't ever afraid that Dredd was not going to win. In this movie, I wasn't sure where they were going to do. I had a feeling that he was going to win, because that's just kind of how these movies go. But at the same time, I'm like, it gets intense. Like, it gets to points where it's like, oh my God, I don't know if they're going to make it out of this. You know, is that how they're going to go with the story? Is this going to be the death of Dredd? Is this, like, are they ending the franchise here? Like, is this a thing? So yeah, it is great. I think, like, it did okay in, like, box office films. I think it made some money. I think it made like at least like 50 million, maybe not quite. But it made like a lot, if I remember correctly. It made like more than it made like the kind of money that they need for it to have been successful, right? But it didn't make like a bazillion dollars. Like, it wasn't contending for top movie of the year or anything like that. But it did do a pretty good job, and it did make a decent amount of money. It's to the point where, like, it's still, like, if you say that you've watched it, people aren't like, what? Like, if I say that I watch, like, if I go watch Judge Dredd, like, 1995, people are like, you did what? Why would you do that to yourself? But if I said, like, oh yeah, my wife and I watched Dredd last night, people are like, oh yeah, that's a good movie, right? That's the kind of feel you get. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. And why don't you watch both of them and then compare them? Watch them back to back. Watch them side by side if you can, and, like, look at the differences between the two films. One is like 1995's sort of optimistic tech view, kind of humoristic thing, and hover cars kind of business, and the other one's like, yeah, like, shit's gonna be bad. Like, it's gonna be bad, and that's the basic premise of the movie. So that's what I give you. I give you 2 thumbs up for both films, but I tell you that they're totally different monsters, and one is a much more serious. One is one that you can watch with your kids, and it's okay. Like, there's some murder sequences, but, like, there's some murders that happen, but they're not, like, super graphic, like the 95 film, and they're not, there's not, like, a lot of language, and there's definitely not like any nudity, if I remember correctly. Whereas the 2012 film, there's all of those things. Like, there's foul language, there's lots of graphic murdering, there's literally not there's not a sex scene, but there is a sex scene. Like, there's a scene where one of the bad guys sort of, like, pokes at Anderson and is like, read my mind, lady. He says, like, you know, he's like, bitch, like, read my mind, and she does, and what he's thinking of is very graphic things to her, right? And so, like, they showed that. So so, like, anyway, it's not a film. Don't watch the second one. Don't watch the 2012 Dredd with your kids, but you can watch the 95 one with your kids. I watched it as a kid. I was like 11, and I watched that movie with my dad and I and my mom. I think we all watched it, and it was like, oh, this is a movie. And I started watching it, like, we bought it, and, like, I was watching it on my own at home. But I certainly would not watch Dredd with anyone under the age of 16, basically. So that's it for me. Go watch those movies, have a good time, and I'll talk to you later. Tell me how you think about them. If you hated them, let me know, but I don't think you will. I think that you will enjoy both. At least, like I said, at least for the one for being fun and not really caring, and the other one for having really cool action sequences. And that's it. So I will talk to you guys later, and I've clearly got ready for the day now. So goodbye.